August 11, 1965. The summer air was thick over south-central Los Angeles, not just with heat, but with frustration. A 21-year-old black man named Marquette Fry had just been pulled over by California Highway Patrol. A crowd formed. His mother arrived. Words were exchanged. Tension snapped like a live wire, and within hours, the city was on fire. But this wasn't just a riot. It was a reckoning, a cry that had been building for decades. Why don't we learn about this in school? Why is the Watts Rebellion remembered as chaos instead of resistance? And who benefits when uprisings are buried, rebranded, or forgotten? Let's go back. Asterisk to understand Watts. You have to understand post-war America after World War II. Millions of African Americans migrated west, escaping Jim Crow, looking for jobs, freedom, a better life. They came to cities like Los Angeles with hope, but what they found was a new kind of segregation. Historian Josh Sides, in his book LA City Limits, explains how white neighborhoods were protected by restrictive covenants. Black families were boxed into overcrowded areas like Watts, often denied bank loans, city services, and good jobs. Police presence, constant, helpful. Chief William H. Parker, who led the LAPD during the 1950s and 60s, once called his police force an occupying army in black communities. That wasn't just rhetoric, it was policy. Officers stopped black residents without cause. Raids were violent. Trust didn't exist. It was only a matter of time. Asterisk the match was struck on that hot August evening. Marquette Fry was pulled over for suspected DUI. But what turned it from a traffic stop to an uprising wasn't just what happened. It was what it represented. His mother tried to intervene. Police began to beat Marquette in the street. A crowd watched. Tensions exploded. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said police had attacked a pregnant woman. Others believed Marquette had been killed. The streets of Watts ignited. Not just in anger over one event, but over a generation of neglect. Asterisk for 6 days. The city burned. 46 square miles of Los Angeles became a battleground. Over 1,000 buildings were damaged. 34 people killed. Nearly 4,000 arrested. But let's pause. Here, what is a riot and what is a rebellion? The term riot was used by every major news outlet. It suggested lawlessness, criminality, chaos. But from the inside, from the people of Watts, this was about justice. It was about being seen, being heard, being free. Civil rights leader Bayard Rustin wrote at the time, "The tragedy of Watts is not that it happened, but that it didn't happen sooner." Asterisk as the flames died down. President Lyndon B. Johnson, who had just signed the Voting Rights Act days before, called for calm. But the federal response was more concerned with optics than causes. The media painted Watts as lawless and senseless. Few asked why it happened. Fewer still asked what it revealed. The McCone Commission was formed to investigate. Its findings were damning. Unemployment, poor housing, police brutality, lack of opportunity. So why don't we learn about Watts in school? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. The polite, polished version of the civil rights movement, Rosa Parks, Dr. King, marches and speeches feels safer. But Watts was rage. Watts was fire. Watts was the language of the unheard. Educator and writer Keeanga Yamada Taylor put it this way: uprisings like Watts force the country to confront the fact that reform has limits and rage. 2 is a political response. Asterisk Watts was not the end, was the beginning of a new phase. It inspired the birth of the Black Power movement. Groups like the Black Panther Party, founded in nearby Oakland in 1966, adopted a message of self-defense, economic empowerment, and radical change. Stokely Carmichael, Angela Davis, Huey Newton. These names rose from the ashes of Watts and shaped a new generation of resistance. The movement expanded beyond voting rights into demands for dignity. Jobs, housing, control of police, the stakes got higher. The language got louder. Asterisk fast forward. 2020. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Cities again in flames. Sound familiar? What happened in Watts was not isolated. It's part of a lineage. From Detroit in 1967 to Rodney King in 1992 to Ferguson in 2014, the root issues remain painfully present. Journalist Jelani Cobb wrote, "The arc of racial justice in America isn't linear. It moves in cycles: protest, backlash, silence, repeat. Asterisk so." Why was Watts erased from our textbooks? Because it demands we confront the systems we built. Because it reveals that justice has always required more than patience. It has required uprising. This wasn't just 6 days of chaos. It was 400 years of pressure. It's finally breaking open, until we face the history of Watts not as a footnote, but as a turning point. We'll keep repeating the same lessons. And the fires will keep returning. Asterisk, asterisk, history doesn't erase itself. Someone chose to silence this story. It's time we choose to tell it. But most of its recommendations ignored.